We all know the sting of being wronged. It is easy, and honestly quite comforting, to look at your unhappiness and conclude that outside forces are pulling the invisible strings of your life. The Pathwork Guide suggests that we are active participants in our own suffering. According to this teaching, we create our own fate by deliberately gripping negative attitudes, even when they make us miserable. This diagram shows the psychological architecture of that illusion. At our core, we harbor destructive tendencies and life-defeating resistance, what Pathwork calls the lower self. To hide this from the world and from ourselves, we construct an idealized self-image, the mask. That mask frequently takes the shape of pure innocence. By playing the role of someone constantly persecuted by the hate of others, we effectively conceal our own spiteful and hating attitudes. Consider a professional named Alice. She goes to work every day convinced she is constantly victimized. Her boss is entirely unfair, and her coworkers deliberately leave her out of important projects. Alice is wearing the mask of the wronged victim. This carefully maintained facade perfectly covers up her own internal resistance to doing the actual difficult work required to succeed. As long as Alice insists on wearing this mask, she surrenders her personal agency. She traps herself in a closed loop of self-sabotage, waiting for an external world to change when the source of the problem is internal. Dismantling this illusion begins with a specific 4-step process for unmasking the false self. Step 1 is to acknowledge and observe. Rather than blaming her team for another frustrating day, Alice has to stop and watch her own reactions. She must find, accept, and observe her own habit of actively cultivating feelings of injury. Step 2 requires admitting the pleasure found in the negativity. This stage demands a level of honesty that forces one to acknowledge the perverse satisfaction hidden within their own suffering and the fact that they do not wish to give it up. Applying this, Alice probes deeper into her complaints. She realizes that playing the wronged victim grants her a quiet sense of superiority. She likes the comfort of being the innocent party. The mechanics of this pleasure are simple. If every failure is her boss's fault, Alice has an airtight excuse. She never has to take the risk of stepping up, working harder, or facing the possibility that she might fail on her own merits. True self-responsibility is impossible until we confess this secret addiction to the safety of our own misery. This flowchart maps out Step 3, understanding consequences. You must trace the cause and effect link between your destructive pattern and unhappiness. Alice sees her defensive energy directly causes her professional isolation. The ultimate cost of this cycle is the total loss of inner security. Step 3 establishes a harsh reality. The cheap sympathy you get from complaining is never worth the exorbitant price you pay in joy and self-esteem. Once the cost is clear, Step 4 is to recreate soul substance. This is the active process of dropping the pretense entirely. Through quiet reflection, you imprint deliberate thoughts of truth onto your psychic material. Alice executes this by unmasking her artificial role and formulating a new intention. She states clearly that blaming keeps her stuck and bitter. Then she asks her innermost being how it feels to respond to her colleagues with honest resilience rather than defensiveness. Dismantling the false self is an active reclamation of lost creative power. Brutal honesty allows us to stop punishing ourselves and start engaging with reality. Removing the mask does not insulate you from the world. You will still encounter real hostility and destructiveness from other people. The guide distinguishes between 2 phases of this experience. First is initiating negativity, the automatic patterns Alice developed as a child to survive. While these responses once felt life-preserving, they now operate as neurotic, unhelpful habits. Then there is responsive negativity. This is how Alice flares up when she encounters the actual hostility of others. Managing it requires a continuous effort to remain truthful, so she doesn't use their behavior as an excuse to put her old mask back on. Living behind a facade creates an exhausting, painful ambivalence. By taking absolute self-responsibility, you replace that exhaustion with a unified, genuinely constructive direction. Stripping away the false self does not leave you empty. Instead, it removes the artificial layer of outer deadness that was suffocating your potential. Creating positively is not a skill you have to force or invent from scratch. It is your organic, natural state. The bubbling aliveness of your real self is not a distant goal you need to acquire. It is a truth already there, waiting right beneath the surface, the moment the illusion is dropped.